Good afternoon, guys. It is May 2nd, 2022. Well, on this video here, I want to talk about just some things that I think a lot of people don't really think about or consider. And I just think that there's a lot of misconceptions and there's a lot of assumptions out there. Now, I will say that there is some truth to what some of these people have said and what I'm going to talk about. But I want you to think about it from a logical perspective and understand what is the better decision for you. Now, with vacuum cleaners, there's one thing that has been just hyped up so much lately. Every manufacturer out there, it seems like, just about, has some hyped up claim about filtration. Some big deal about HEPA filtration, sealed system, air quality, all that stuff. And while that is true, there are some things that I think people don't really consider. And a lot of people think that older designs like a Kirby or a Sanitary just do not filter well. And to a certain extent, they may have their issues as far as filtration. I'm not saying that they don't. But I want you to consider this. A bagless vacuum cleaner, even if they say it's sealed, is always going to be more dirty than a bagged vacuum cleaner would, regardless of what it is, in most cases. Just because you're dumping that back out and that loose dust and stuff is being recirculated back into the air. And so if you do have a vacuum cleaner that does not use disposable bags, please empty it outside. Do not empty it in your house, especially if you have allergies. It's just not efficient. And the one thing I want to talk about also is the vacuum cleaners that claim to be sealed, that are bagless. I'm not thinking that they're telling the whole truth here. Because, like I said, the dumping of the canister, you're just recirculating all that back into the air. But also, from the constant opening and closing of that canister, those seals become weaker and weaker, and they don't seal as well over time. So, that's just one thing that I think about. And then there's people that say, oh, well, old vacuums are just bad, just don't use them. Well, in my experience, I will say this, it depends on your own personal needs and what you want. And I'm not saying that there's a right or wrong answer necessarily. But I will say, unless you have severe allergies or asthma, to the point where you are literally cut off from air and can't breathe, and vacuuming really triggers it, these most likely aren't going to be an issue for you, especially a Kirby or an Auric or something like that, that has these higher quality bags, like this. Now, this is your only form of filtration, I get that, but it's a step up above the paper bags. Big time. And I will say this about the Kirby bags. Only stick with genuine Kirby bags. You bought an expensive machine. Treat it with respect and get the parts that the manufacturer provides. And the other thing is I have noticed pretty much zero smells from the Kirby bags. That's just been my experience, and I have a beagle in this house, and beagles have an oily coating on their hair, and they do shed. And I can tell you from a lot of other vacuum cleaners, there's that animal funk smell that comes through. Now, I might get just a hint of it from a Kirby. I'm not saying I don't, but it's very, very minimal with these thick bags. I very, very rarely have a major problem with odors or anything like that. Now, on the other hand, you've got these sanitaries here, which can use higher quality ST bags that are a little thicker, or the F&G bags, which are paper and everything. And I'm not saying that there's no problems with these designs. There are pros and cons to everything, okay? But one thing that I have heard, especially from all these super techs out there, is, well, it's just outdated. The filtration just isn't that good. Or, blah, blah, blah. And my biggest thing is, if it's not broke, don't fix it. It just is a waste of time, a waste of money to be worried about that stuff. Now, like I said, if you have severe health issues, if you have issues and these designs aren't cutting it for you, I understand that 100%. Everybody needs to make their own decisions, but I will say that, if you've had one of these for the last 30 to 40 years and you've never had a problem, and you're just wanting to keep it going, just keep it going. Because honestly, if you're not that worried about it, just don't bother. Because I've seen a lot of people who want to sell vacuum cleaners, and they're like, oh, well, it's just outdated, and I can't believe they're putting money into fixing this. Honestly, somebody might have had that vacuum cleaner for over 30 years. and never had a problem with it. And yes, there are genuine issues, there are genuine concerns. If you have very sensitive lungs, if you have health issues, if you have, quite a bit of dust in your area, if you live in the country or something like that, and you're trying to contain that, then yes, I understand that. But, there's just not a whole lot of reason to, to be too worried about it. And, not to mention, I advocate keeping vacuum cleaners running as long as possible. And I think I tend to go the other route. I think I tend to try and keep them going longer than they should, which might not be a good thing. But I understand that there is a time and a place that they're worn out and they need to be replaced. I get that. However, if it's in good shape, if it has been reliable and it has served you for many years and it is very, very, very cost effective to repair, go ahead and repair it. I'm serious. This sanitary here, it was used commercially in a church. And the lady who had bought it, the motor ended up burning out, bad, electrical smell, just horrific burnout. And she said, well, it's just not worth fixing. And I'm like, I could fix it for about 60 to 70 bucks for you and get it going again. And she's like, well, it's just not worth putting the money into, and I really don't want to. And so it was just sitting for a couple weeks. And then I just asked her, I said, okay, if you're not wanting to fix it, then could I buy it from you or could I have it? And she just looked at me and she said, well, if you want it, it's yours because it's just going in the dumpster. And right away, I'm just like, okay, and then I'm taking it. Because cosmetically, I did replace the cord on it because the cord was a little bit chewed up. And I had to go through the effort of unhooking the cord to replace the motor anyway, so I figured I would go ahead and put a new cord on it while I was at it. But I put about 70 bucks into this. Now, these were about $300 to $350 brand new back in the day. And $70 on a machine, especially that is cosmetically in good shape like this, is beyond worth it. All the other materials were in good shape. All the other parts were in really good shape. Everything was clean. And, this will keep going for a long time. And my whole goal, and I'm not necessarily, an environmental kind of guy. I do believe in wasting less and not just throwing everything away. I'm not just a freak about, oh, I have to recycle everything and everything has to be green and everything has to... I don't go that far. But I am a believer in keeping appliances and machines out of the landfill for as long as possible. And not to mention saving you money over time. Now, some things, yes, it's just flat out not worth putting the money into. I mean, there is a point in time where things just have had their life and they're worn out, they're tired, and they've had their time. I know that. I absolutely know that, and I'm not going to deny that. But I like to push things as long as I can. I like to find a way to keep them going if I can. You know? And with these two, with the Kirby and the Sanitaire, you can easily do that. And I will say that my Kirby's, I have 2 of them. Those things, I'm going to be squeezing every ounce of life that I can out of them. And the same thing with just about all of my vacuum cleaners. Good ones that are actually worth putting the effort into. But just generally, just maintaining your vacuum cleaner will help you to keep it going for a good long time. And like I said, yes, there are things like that, like, maybe some better filtration, maybe some things, but like I said, unless you have major issues to where you can't even breathe, or you can't, you have severe issues with air quality, I wouldn't worry about it too much, because honestly, a decent bagged vacuum like this, especially with the HEPA bags, it's gonna really improve your air quality. I would say by 90% at least, most of the time. And it's just, you also gotta factor in like how much parts cost for newer machines, how much parts cost for older machines. Can you get parts for certain machines that are new? Can you get parts for older machines? You just gotta weigh all that out. And how much is it gonna cost? Is it cost effective? And most of the time, these 2 machines are extremely cost effective to repair. And they are extremely reliable. I mean, they just keep on trucking along. And if you are somebody that puts the miles on a vacuum cleaner, and I'm telling you, like, puts the miles on them, like vacuums every day, lots of messes, lots of kids, pets, everything like that, and you're a very demanding household on your vacuum cleaners and you use them hard, then I'm telling you, if you have a good quality vacuum cleaner like this, it's gonna really hold up. And that's why I recommend commercial high quality vacuum cleaners. Now the Kirby isn't necessarily commercial, or it's not advertised as commercial, but I would say it is pretty darn close to a commercial unit. Would I use it commercially? That depends. Probably not, from my personal preference. I'm sure it can handle it, but Kirby's are my favorite, and they are not cheap, and I do not want to abuse my Kirby's. I really do not. So that's just my personal choice. However, they are solid, they are reliable, they are quality. And even though a newer machine might be good, and I'm not saying all new machines are bad, I think that there are some new machines that are wonderful and will last just as long. I think so. I really do. I think the SIBOs are wonderful. I think the commercial Windsor, which is basically a SIBO. What else is there? The Pro Team uprights, which are basically an updated version of an Electrolux. It's basically a copied Electrolux, but they just improved the filtration on it. But like I said, if you don't have any major problems, with allergies or anything, and you don't notice to where it really affects you bad, then just don't worry about it. Because there's always somebody trying to sell you something that's bigger and better and greater, and it's not always necessary. A new technology is not always the answer. It just isn't. And I don't think, fixing something that is just way too far gone is the answer either. But if it's worth fixing, just fix it. Keep it going. Because that's just going to save a lot of time and, well, maybe not time, but just headache of trying to figure out, where to go. And Kirby's, Sanitaries, they all last a really, 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 really long time. And I mean, you can just put the miles on these things and they will just keep going. I mean, just think about small tennis shoes versus big, hard, sturdy work boots. Just comparing those two. Do you think the hard-working, sturdy work boot is going to be able to take more of a beating? Probably. And that's what these are. So, I mean, they just kick butt big time, and they blow 90% of things out of the water. Now, I will say that some newer designs, some of the newer Ricars, some of the newer SIBOs, some of the newer commercial machines are wonderful, and I absolutely recommend them. And I don't think you're going to have a problem with them. I think they're going to be reliable. I think they're going to hold up. I think they're going to be outstanding for you. But if you have machines that are older, that have been faithful, good, trusty, old, reliable, faithful, and they continue to serve you well, and somebody's telling you, well, just go ahead and buy a new one because, that's what we do. We sell vacuum cleaners. Sell, 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 sell. Just, if you don't want to, just stick to your guns and say no. Because if you've had a Kirby in your house for years, your kids have grown up with it, and it's still serving you well, and you still like it, and you don't have any issues with it, keep it seriously. I mean, the same thing goes for an Auric, or a Sanitary, or an old SIBO if you have one, or an old Electrolux if you have one. And I understand that the filtration isn't always the best. But, like I said, unless there is just a major problem and you really notice that it's not helping you, you know, I really wouldn't worry about it. And you can always get an air purifier. And I think that's going to help supplement with vacuuming too. You know, so I don't think there's a one size solution to it. And yes, air quality is very important. I do agree. But like I said, if it's not causing a major problem for you, I would not worry about it. I really wouldn't. I mean, I honestly can breathe better after I vacuum with either one of these. Any of my vacuums, especially if they're bagged. I will say a cheap bagged vacuum is going to filter 10 times better than a cheap bagless vacuum. It just is. Flat out. That's just a fact. Bagless vacuums just flat out don't filter well, for the most part. And then, like I said, when you dump them, they just redeposit stuff back in the air, and they're a pain to deal with. I mean, even these paper bags, and these are for my Eureka Mighty Mite that I just have in here. Even these filter extremely well, and these are cheap. These are the DVC micro-lined vacuum bags. To the package here. And they have a micro liner. So these filter out quite a bit. Now, does it filter out everything? Probably not. But does it filter out more than a bagless vacuum? You betcha. So, again, unless you have like just major issues and you really just have some serious health concerns, like a smoker's home, a home with lots of sensitivities, lots of allergies, then yeah, you may want to go with something that has lots of filtration. But I don't think that it's necessarily essential for every single house and every single lifestyle. So, anyway, I just thought I'd touch on that and just share some of my opinions on it. You may agree or disagree, but I just think that there's just a balance. You know, I don't think there's a one size fits all. I don't think that everything has to be a certain way. I just think that, you know, there's a couple different options. You know, either you really need to clean carpet, which, if you're cleaning carpet for a living, you know, and you're shampooing carpet and stuff, you're gonna need something like a sanitary to really get out tons of sand and stuff like that. And yeah, filtration, that's why I'd recommend the disposal of bags because they'll filter somewhat. But your main goal is not necessarily to clean the air, it's to get that stuff out of the carpet. But if air quality is genuinely a concern, like if you're cleaning in a hospital, then yeah, you might want a higher filtering machine. So there's just multiple different applications that I think just it just varies. Um, I don't think there's any place to say that one is better than the other because they all have their pros and cons, every single one of them. So please like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos.